Hey, family. What's up, YouTube? What are emotions? So, emotions have been described as basically a subjective response or subjective experience together with a physiological response, together with a behavioral response. So, the subjective experience, which is a personal, individual perception of a situation, and the individual perception of that situation in turn creates physiological responses in the body. And then there is a behavioral response, basically how we express that emotion. It's kind of weird how it works together, but so basically, we encounter a situation and we have our own individual perception of that situation. And then our brain tells itself a story about what's going on inside of our body in relation to that individual perception of an experience. So, of what's going on in our environment. And it's telling that story based on the emotional knowledge that we have learned from our past experiences. And it's been said that every feeling, every thought, and every action is also explained, that we will ever make, is also explained in that same way. Um, Okay, and it's telling this story. So basically, our brain is telling itself a story about what's going on inside of our body in relation to what's going on in our immediate environment, the situations that we encounter, the presentation of facts, or the event, in order to predict what we are going to hear, see, and feel. That is basically the definition of emotion, and it is also the explanation for how every thought, feeling, decision, and action that we will ever make. So yeah, I'm gonna learning to live with emotions. So what are emotions? They are signals. They are feelings, a source of information about ourselves. What do they provide? Emotions slash feelings, which is also, that's another thing I want to point out. Neuroscientists have said that emotions and feelings and mood, they're all separate things. Um, but um, so emotions provide information about our attitude and clues about how to take care of ourselves. Humor and grief cleanse and revitalize our spirit. So what I'm reading now, this is a question, a sheet that I had to answer, or that I was given. It's called Learning to Live with Emotions, and it's basically just something that I was given as part of my program that I took years ago. And it's got questions, and I answered it from information that I learned in the program through the materials that they gave me in the program. So that just goes to show that you can continue to learn more and more about a subject, because it says that what do emotions provide, and I put emotions slash feelings, but I'm learning that those are separate, they're separate entities. They feed each other, but they're not the same. Um, what do emotions offer us? Emotions offer us the opportunity to knowingly and willingly have a choice in our attitude and feelings, and show them in a healing way, healthy way. How do emotions affect our behavior? Emotions motivate or shape all behavior. Emotions urge, allow, encourage, help teach, and communicate to our consciousness. What are spontaneous emotions the result of? Spontaneous emotions are the result of the internal processing of attitudes, memories, past experiences, expectations, and appraisal. What is shame, and what does shame create? Shame is the sense that something is wrong with us, that we are flawed or defective as a human being. Shame creates guilt, which leads to more shame, and so on. What is the best way to instill and maintain self-love and integrity? By accepting remorse without shame as a clue to change behavior, by being honest and open about our feelings and willing to work through our past by allowing ourselves to grieve. How does a person let go of the past? By talking about it, getting it out in the open, and working through it, and by accepting it and learning from it. How does a person take personal responsibility? Realizing that we control our feelings and putting time and effort into being accountable for how we feel by using I feel statements. Own the feeling. How does a person convey additional messages? When we express ourselves, others gather more communication from us in the tone of our voice, body language, and the words we choose to use. Now, it's just to summarize what you learned. Okay, so this is a summary of what I learned, I process for coping. So when I quit taking care of others, I can accept full responsibility for myself. Pain and grief can make me feel vulnerable and uncomfortable, and maybe lead me to want to get back to my old behaviors and ways of thinking. As I endure and allow myself to grieve, the pain does subside, and I will begin to feel complete, clean, and free from the past. By being open, I make room for positive change. What are some ways to cope with emotions? First, I need to allow myself to feel the emotion. Second, I can explore them and try to understand my emotions and why I feel the way I do, and if it is healthy or not. Simply letting myself experience my emotions is a good way to cope with my emotions. Write about my feelings in a journal and talk to someone. What is the paradox in letting go of control? By letting go of control of others' reactions and accepting responsibility for my own, I can learn to have control over my feelings and reactions to them. What do we gain by recapturing emotions? By recapturing emotions, I can allow that healthy, innocent, and spontaneous child to reemerge while at the same time becoming the healthy adult I have always wanted to be. I can learn to feel, act, and react in an appropriate manner. I can heal myself. Another thing that we can do, um, so if our brain is telling itself a story and about what's going on in our body in relation to what's going on in our immediate environment, and it's using our emotional knowledge that we learned from our past experience to predict how we're going to hear, what we're going to hear, see, feel, we can start to just learn new skills, learn new experiences. And every experience that we have now becomes part of our brain's ability to predict. And if we practice the new things that we learn consistently and repetitively, the brain can use those new experiences to predict differently in the future. And for us to act differently in the future, what gives us the opportunity to be different than what we are now. So that kind of touches base a little bit on what I've learned about emotions. It's a complicated subject. So basically, as I was saying, there's a subjective experience, right? Which is so the subjective experience for this example is me sitting down and getting ready to make a video, right? And evidently I have a physiological response. So how my body actually responds to the experience, right? And then I have a behavioral response, which is how I express. But if I get to the point where the individual perception of event or situation, so my brain is telling itself a story, right, about what's going on inside my body right now in relation to me sitting down to make this video, and all of a sudden it's telling this story and it all happens so quickly that I'm getting ready to sit down or stand up in front of a huge crowd of people, and I almost get stuck before I even make these videos. I mean, I start to feel, I start to experience fear and predict rejection and stuff like that. And it keeps me from wanting to sit down and actually make the video, when in reality, all I'm doing is sitting in my dining room at a table with my phone. And it's crazy that how powerful this stuff really is. And the more I learn, I think the more that I'll be able to expose you to and be able to more clearly explain this stuff and be more informative about the subject, and that it will help you in even more ways. And with that being said, I'm going to wrap up this video by reading the nightly journal entry out of my journal from over 14 years ago when I did my treatment program. I got locked up and sentenced to prison for a fifth drunk driving. And I could have done my time, but there was an opportunity where they were offering an intense boot camp military style inpatient treatment in a prison setting that included, physical training, working, and all types of different classes, vocational, alcohol and drug abuse counseling, criminal thinking, rational thinking, and some other things, but like learning on relationships and all types of stuff. And I decided to take that opportunity, and I applied for that, and I participated in that 6-month-long intensive inpatient military style boot camp treatment. And one of the things we had to do was take a journal and put it, there's 4 questions. There's 4 phases in this, and in each phase the questions change. I'm still in the first phase, and if you've been following my videos, you know I read one of these at the end of almost every video. And right now, we are on November 8th of 2011. So the journal entries for that night while I was doing my treatment program. What was positive and what was negative about today? Positives for the day were the time away from the center today to go on work crew, and some interesting feedback in my AODA group pointed something out I was not aware of that will be beneficial to my recovery. The negative for today was not being able to go to my own kitchen and have a pop. What were the main feelings I experienced today? I guess I would say I felt proud today because I have come a long way in my personal growth in the last 5 months. What helped me make it through the day? My determination to succeed and motivation of my new life I hope for. And what did I learn today? I learned that saying no to alcohol is going to be an uncomfortable situation for me. So, yeah. So, yeah, that was it. What are emotions? Keep pushing forward. Never give up. Just because we've done something so long does not mean we have to continue to do it. God bless you. See you in the next video.